Go grab your wife for dinner because D.C.'s now murder-free. President Trump's taking a victory lap on his very successful crime crackdown. Earlier, he put D.C.'s woke Mayor Bowser on blast. He warned other blue cities are next. And yeah, he's even coming for the rats.
It was unsafe. It was horrible. And Mayor Bowser better get her act straight or she won't be mayor very long. It was a crime-infested rat hole. And they do have a lot of rats. We're getting rid of them, too. Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent. And we'll straighten that one out probably next. That'll be our next one after this. And it won't even be tough. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one. But they're wearing red hats. African-American ladies, beautiful ladies, are saying, please, President Trump, come to Chicago.
Trump also wants a crime-free D.C. to look beautiful. And last night, 47 flexed his lawn care game.
One of the things we're going to be redoing is your parks. I'm very good at grass because I have a lot of golf courses all over the place. I know more about grass than any human being, I think, anywhere in the world.
You know about grass, right, Greg?
That's true, and I'm glad you brought me that. The only thing that's getting killed in D.C. are the dreams of Democrats ever coming back into power. I want to focus on grass because it matters. People who build or create or design or fix, they know stuff. They know things. They accumulate knowledge. Trump's a builder. Elon Musk is an engineer. Imagine if Rick Caruso had won as mayor in Los Angeles instead of a DEI hire. That guy is also a builder. Of course, Trump is right. You got to know about grass if you build golf courses. Why is this important? Because this is what Republicans are, and this is what Democrats have lost, which is practical, real-world knowledge, going back to the A block, replaced by platitudes, rhetoric, woke terminology. You look at their leaders, Joe Biden, lifetime politician, Kamala, pretty much the same, Gavin, a Nepo politician, Chuck Schumer, Crockett, Booker, all either bureaucrats, lawyers, or rent seekers who create nothing but paper and platitudes. Now you got a guy who is in charge, who spent his life building, and he knows stuff. He understands bureaucracy and how to get around bureaucracy. He knows grass, he knows gas, he knows gold.
If you were the mayor of Chicago and the president was going to offer to rid your city of crime, would you fight against that?
The mayor does not sound like he's excited. He is not accepting the invitation. He does not want to get on board with that. And I think the president has something when he says the people of Chicago, which is different than the leadership of Chicago. I'm sure there are many neighborhoods there that would enjoy some help. We saw the D.C. police chief say at one point, we could use more law enforcement on the street. It would actually help our officers. So I think that some local leaders realize the help is needed and they should accept it. But listen, I think the fact that the attackers of the Doge individual, whose name I will not use here, the fact that they have kind of gotten this slap on the wrist and are sort of back on, some kind of release in D.C., that's the exact kind of thing that Democrats are being warned against. That memo that said stop using things like unhoused also talked about crime and said, do not look like you're more sympathetic to the criminal than you do to the people who live in these cities. So,
hey, do you know what Cinderella liked? Big balls. It's funny. He's pushing law enforcement and lawn enforcement.
Very good, Greg.
And regrassing. I never heard that word before, but I like it.
Can you believe, Jessica, that the Big Balls mob was just let go?
No, I think about it all the time, actually.
No, but I mean, that's such a rude thing for you to say. This poor guy was saving a woman's life who was getting carjacked. He's a hero.
Don't push me about his hero-dom. It was obviously horrible that he got beaten up, but this was Donald Trump's plan, no matter if Big Balls had been attacked that night or not. He's been talking about it for a long time, not just about D.C., but he wants to control every facet of American life. And notice, and there are places that are controlled by Republicans that have safety issues, that have murder issues, petty thefts, carjackings, whatever it is. He never talks about any of those places. He only focuses on places where there is Democratic leadership.
Take his help. Take his help. Be happy.
Well, I don't want to be happy about the federalization of our American cities. We elect people, we go to the ballot box and we pick the people who are being charged. That doesn't mean they do a flawless job. That doesn't mean that they couldn't use some help, that there is a way to help without just taking it over. And he never wants to go for the middle ground.
You've never proven that. You've never helped no liberal-run city is helping its inhabitants.
That's not true. Look at what's going on in the rehabilitation of San Francisco and what Dan Lurie's doing out there.
After how long?
So
Don't
what,
lecture
right?
me on San
You're
Francisco.
always moving the goalposts. If there is a Democrat that's doing a good job, then you say, oh, blah, 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 blah. Like, if this
You know who got that happened? Fox. Fox
Okay,
every day
You're
covering
amazing.
San Francisco.
San Francisco, you are welcome. Thank you that we talked about it. And now you have a fantastic mayor who has the same values as the base of the party and is keeping the city in check. He's out there. Has great social media where he talks about results and he's walking around in those neighborhoods. And there is a way to do this without taking over.
You know, she uses the word taking over, Katie. I
Yeah,
mean, all
it's
it
2
looks
words.
like to me is he put the guard in the high traffic touristy areas, show of force, and it frees up the rest of the DC police to go into the bad neighborhoods and target the gangs.
Well, first, there was a Democratic mayor that was doing really well on crime in Dallas, and he became a Republican because Democrats weren't working with him to stop the crime. And politically, if Democrats were smart, they would take Trump up on his offer in every single city to stop the crime because it completely disarms the political argument for the midterms that Democrats are pro-criminal and that they are totally fine with crime so long as Donald Trump is wrong. In terms of Washington, D.C., Trump didn't take over. He reestablished federal control of the District of Columbia. It is unconstitutional that there is actually this local control going on. It's supposed to be controlled by the feds. Over the last 5 decades, local politicians have proven they cannot handle maintaining the capital city of the United States of America for all Americans. They're failing their own citizens with the crime, but they're failing the country as a result of their corruption, their ineptitude, and their refusal to allow any kind of ideas outside of this far-left progressive ideology. And for the president, you saw it today when he was in the Oval Office. This is about crime and cleaning up the city, but it's also about making the capital city the most important city in the world politically. Clean, safe. He wants to host FIFA at the Kennedy Center. He doesn't want the tent city that used to be right across the street at the Kennedy Center when people from all over the world come see the United States of America. He's showing off, and he's making the capital city beautiful and safe for Americans and for everybody because he believes in American exceptionalism and he doesn't believe in filth. He has some pride in America, and that's why he's doing this. It's not a takeover or whatever. It's reestablishing the actual people who are supposed to be in charge of Washington, D.C., and it's not the local.
What about
locals.
Chicago and New York? Who's supposed to be in charge?
We can talk
there?
about, like I said, Democrats should absolutely
Jessica,
partner with the president.
we're going to
and
protect
disarm
you
the
whether
political
you like
argument.
it or not. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.